biggest problems that creatives face, especially when they're just starting out, is working out like how to get into that creative flow and get into the habit of creating regularly. And if you're anything like me, with that fabulous mix of both autism and ADHD, every time I try to get in a new routine for taking walks or whatever, I make it 3 days and then I forget that I ever was doing that. And like, it's really hard for me to, one, remember to do something and to stick with it, especially when it's not something that I can finish in like one sitting. Because I'm really good at starting and finishing things if they're short, if they're small. I can hyper focus like the best of them, but doing something that takes longer, like a bigger work of art, like writing a book, and just developing a regular creative practice, I had to try a lot of things to get myself to do that. When I got the download that I needed to make art again, I stalled for 9 months and didn't make any art. I set up an art space and I got supplies and all this stuff, but I couldn't get into a habit or routine of doing it. And so there was a lot of things I had to do. I had to get through the resistance and stuff like that, which I've talked about in other videos. But what ultimately I learned about myself is that I have to create a structure around my creative practice. And I'm ADHD, I rebel against structure, but my autism is, I love structure. So it's like this constant battle my entire life between structure and no structure. But I've learned I have to be structured about my unstructured creative practice. And at the beginning, I had to force myself to do it. So I had a group program that I was running and I added a weekly co-working time of co-art making time solely because I needed it. I'm sure I was like, I know other people will benefit from this too, but if I'm forced to be here as the leader of this program every single week and I have an hour and a half where I'm supposed to be making art, that will get me doing it. And so I forced myself to go. When I was writing my book, I forced myself to go to every writing practice. I made the commitment that I would not miss a writing practice day. And so I knew that for every day of the week, I had an hour that I would work on my writing. And within that hour, I could do whatever felt right that day, but that I had that hour structure. And now I've been making art long enough to where I love to do it and I do it regularly without really being prompted. But sometimes I do fall off. That's when I have to say, okay, now we need to implement a structure. And maybe my structure is at the end of the workday, I sit at my art desk for 30 minutes and do something. Doesn't matter what. I'm showing up for my art. And if I continue to show up for my art, my creativity will show up for me. So if this resonates with you, if you're one of these structure, anti-structure people, think about ways to add structure and force yourself to do it at first until your subconscious clicks on, until it becomes a habitual automatic thing. And let's be honest, with ADHD, nothing in my life is habitual. Nothing in my life other than my coffee. That is the only thing I can do habitually. But I have been making art long enough to know that it's fun, to know that I like it, to know that I want to do it, to know that it will help me when I'm feeling certain ways. And the building of that structure early in the process has basically given me the gift now of a regular creative practice that I don't have to force myself to do, that adds so much to my life. It might be hard at first, but it'll be worth it in the end.